I I haven't been introduced to one other person who is the mastermind behind what we do here. It's kind of a three-person team that travels. Myself and Ryan, but also my husband Martin, who might be here right now. Martin? When I say that he's a part of, it's a very silent partnership. He's not very present. Oh, there he is. He's the silhouette in the back waving. Yeah, there he is. You can't see very well, but he is 6'5", blonde hair, blue eyes, stunningly gorgeous. When you see him, you will know it. And we've been married for a little over 8 years, and we met in high school at Fellowship of Christian Athletes. Do y'all have that here? Yeah. And if you were to see him, you would say, oh yes, he definitely was an athlete. He played baseball. And then when you see me, you think, I wonder what she was doing at Fellowship of Christian Athletes. Which is a very good question, because he played baseball and I played bass. Yeah, not really anything to do with each other. But I remember meeting him that night, and I still have no idea why I was there, except that I think that I just wanted to fellowship with a good-looking Christian athlete. Which worked. So any of you high school students, that one's for free. You can try that one. No, but we had dated in high school and got married, I don't know, many years later, and our marriage it's been good and it's been hard, and I don't know if anyone else can relate to that. Marriage can be wonderful and hard all at once. And none of you are going to go like this because you're sitting beside your spouse. You can just wink at me. How about that? I see that hand. I'm just kidding. No. But for us, it was hard early on because Martin was diagnosed with a brain tumor very early on in our marriage, probably within the first 2 years. And it was just some funny symptoms, and we went to a bunch of doctors, and so we were thankful to finally figure out what was wrong. But this was someone who had been healthy his whole life, and we certainly weren't expecting that. But we had always been the kind of people that just roll with the punches, and so when we got the diagnosis, we said, all right, so what's the next step? And we met with some doctors, and Martin had surgery, and I remember the doctor telling me after Martin's first surgery, he said, he's gonna, he may have some trouble, he may not remember anything. So we may not know who you are. So I just want to go ahead and tell you. And so I remember just being so scared I was going to walk in there and he'd have no clue who I was. And that actually didn't happen. I walked in and his face just lit up and said, Laura Story! I was like, shoo. And then he goes, what are you doing here? And I learned very early on that he totally remembered me from high school, but had no idea that we were married. And how do you really break that news to someone, I was like, hey, remember me? We sat by each other in English, and then we got married. So the good part was when I finally broke the news to him, his response was, we're married? Yes! Which is really the best response you can get from someone in a situation like that. I'll tell you this too, because this is kind of funny. But that continued to be funny for a few weeks, especially when we finally got home from the hospital. And I remember that first night that I crawled into bed with him, and his eyes got really big. And I could tell he was trying to figure out what to say, and he finally said, Laura, I appreciate you wanting to look after me, but this is not appropriate. It was really sweet. Hey, what time is it, Jessica? You have a watch or anything on? Does anyone have a watch? 8:25. Okay, cool. Okay, can I tell you one more quick story? Because this is just too funny. So, he also, when we were in the hospital, but he struggled to couldn't tell what was fact or fiction. Like we would watch the news and it'd be about, like suspected bomb, in some state building, and he would think it was in his hospital room. And he wasn't anxious about it. He just would say, "Hey, before you go to bed, do you mind checking the bathroom for bombs?" I was like, "Okay, sure, whatever you say." So anyway, well, one day I'm watching this program that I'm a little embarrassed now that I've started this story. I'm a little embarrassed to tell you. Have you ever seen those shows? It's like Kid Stars, Where Are They Now? Like Macaulay Culkin and all those people. Some VH1, because people in America are very concerned with what those people are doing now, like the Olsen twins. Anyway, well, I can catch you up on all their lives, because apparently I was watching this show one day in the hospital, and so anyway, our pastor drops by to come see us. So I immediately, lunge for the remote and go, "Martin, I can't believe you were watching that." I'm a terrible wife. So anyway, Pastor Randy comes and sits down and is just making small talk with Martin. And he says, "So Martin, so where did you and Laura first meet?" And Martin, he says, "Well, we first met on the set." I'm just kind of overhearing this thinking, that's odd. And then he continues to tell our pastor, he says, "Pastor Randy, I don't know if you know this about me, but I used to star in a television show called The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air." And I had to very lovingly tell him, "You and Will Smith are both tall and good looking, but there are some slight differences." So I tell you that, you're like, "Good gracious, where is she going with this?" And I really don't know, but I'm going to pretend like I do. No, I tell you that to say, the song "Blessings" it's written from the point of view of someone whose life has looked a little bit different than I thought. And I don't know if any of you guys can relate to that, where you think about the wonderful plan that you had written out for your life and you just needed God to sign off on. And then we kind of spend the rest of our lives saying, "Not my will, but yours be done, God." And with Martin and the tumor, we've had some years that everything's been great, and other years that we've seen dips in his progress, and he's doing so much better than any doctor ever imagined. So we truly praise God for that. And on the other hand, but there's some things that we haven't seen complete healing for. Martin still has a vision deficit, which keeps him from driving, and a memory deficit, a short-term memory deficit that just is a result of a brain injury. And anyone that deals with disabilities or brain injuries knows it just makes life hard. And it's hard on a spiritual level as well, because I grew up believing with my whole heart that God was all-powerful and that God was all-loving. And I still believe those two things with my whole heart. But sometimes, it seems like those two things should fit together, and it should mean complete healing for my husband. So it's hard to reconcile why that hasn't happened yet. I've probably prayed 1,000 times, God, if you fix this, I promise to give you all the glory. And I feel like every time I pray that, it's not an audible voice that I hear back, but it might as well be. He speaks straight to my heart and says right back to me, he says, "Okay, Laura, but what if the healing is a process? What if it's a long road that you walk that involves sleepless nights, that involves more faith than you ever imagined yourself capable of? Will you still give me all the glory?" And that's hard, and that's something I struggle with every day. It's not a story. I wish I could tell you a story about, well, this thing happened to me and then I learned this. It's no, we're still right in the middle of it. But if I had to guess, I would guess that in a room this size, there's a lot of you that are right in the middle of things that are broken that you thought that God might have fixed by now. So I guess I'm hoping this song will encourage you. But even though it feels like your life might be chaos, there is a plan. And even though we don't understand it sometimes this side of heaven, doesn't mean that his plan isn't good. It doesn't mean it wasn't orchestrated by a loving Father. That above all things, his main purpose is to see us conformed to his character and for his name to be given glory. So this is a song called Blessings.